Tyler Tolman here. I just wanted to free flow this morning and share with you guys some ancient Egyptian wisdom that might inspire you as to who we are, where we come from, and what we're here to do. So just a little bit on ancient Egypt. The ancient Egyptians, these guys up here, actually had the remnants and the wisdom, the knowledge and the wisdom passed down from the ancient Atlanteans. The ancient Atlanteans were a far superior race. Races, black, white, red, yellow, all four bloodlines, the original root races. And they were all living in harmony together. What a concept. Black, white, yellow, and red races all living in a high civilization in ancient Atlantis. And there came a time where things were changing. And so the greatest of greats from Atlantis picked up and moved to Egypt. Now, you might have heard that the pyramids weren't built in a day. But if you know what I know, you might think otherwise. And I want to share with you guys that the ancient Egyptians, the true ancient Egyptians, tens of thousands of years ago, when the pyramid complex was established by the original ruler, Ptah, and by this guy over here, Tehuti, also known as Thoth or Hermes Trismegistus. When Hermes Trismegistus, thrice great, and Ptah, the ruler, also probably known as Enki, when they came to Egypt, they established and built the pyramid complex. They built the Sphinx, and along the Nile, which represented the Milky Way in the heavens, and establishing the pyramids that represented Orion in the heavens. And basically, Egypt was a reflection of above, as above, so below. And what they saw in the heavens, they built on earth in almost perfect proportions. And they set up 13 temples, which were a process of 13 things that we'd go through, learning about natural principles and learning how to activate your own divine essence, become activated. And there was a process by which we would awaken. We'd go through the process of purification, and then we would become activated. This would activate our true genetic blueprint and help us to evolve to another level. And I don't want to get into that too much. I just want to talk a little bit about the process. And I want to talk about some of their teachings and how we can see these things within our own body. Your body is the church. Your body is the temple. My body is the temple of the living God. In the temple of God, there can be no sickness, only perfect harmony, happiness, and love. My body is the organization of the heavens. We have the Christos, the anointed, the one, the third eye, the seat of the soul. And around the seat of the soul, there are 12 cranial nerves, the 12 plus 1, the 12 disciples in Christ, as above, so below, as within, so without. As we see things internally, we see things externally. What we see in the heavens, we have the sun that we see, the brightest star for us, our Christos. And then we have the 12, actually 13, but 12 signs of the zodiac, each one of us born under one of these houses with a very specific vibration. I want to show you guys some images that might awaken some things within you. I'm going to share my screen here, and I haven't really done this before. So it may work and it may not. And I hope that it does. I don't know if I can get some feedback here. Just trying to go through this. It blanks out my screen when I share that. And I'm hoping this works because I can't see anything. But notice what you notice. This is Ra Messi's Mess means born of. And if you can see my cursor, if you can see this image, if not, I apologize. I'll upload this later, and I'll upload the images, do some editing, and put it on YouTube so you guys can see it. But I'm hoping you can see these images. Here we can see Ra. Ra is depicted with the sun on top of his head. That is the sun, Ra. Here we see this symbol, which is the rays of the sun coming down. Egyptologists will say that this is dead animal pelts, which is bullshit. This is the rays of the sun coming down, and this is Mes, Ra Mes, born of Ra, and this is Emen. This is the little reed leaf. This is a stone reflecting light, and this is water. Emen, Amun. This is where the moon comes from. Amun. And the moon is the reflected light. Amun, the reflected light of Ra. We have Ra and we have the moon. We have the sun and we have the moon. And the moon is the reflected light of the sun. And there were worshipers. There were the priests of Amun. Worshipers, or people who admired and admonished and took their information from the reflected light. And then there were those born of Ra. Rameses, Amen, Rameses, born of Ra. So this individual put inside of a cartouche, which is a name that it was given by the French because it mimics a cartouche, a cartridge from their rifle, but it has nothing to do with that. Whenever you encircle the sun with a name, it's a sign of gaining immortality. This individual right here, and look at the face, look at the demeanor, look at the legs, look at the arms. This is a pure depiction of this individual. Look at these legs. This is somebody that is formidable. This is somebody of great strength, great groundedness, with the left foot forward. And you can see as these individuals evolve and learn these practices and processes, they raise their consciousness. And as we raise our consciousness, we literally raise ourselves in size. And you can see this woman, full-grown, beautiful woman standing here. And you can see the size of the true Ramses the Great. And a lot of people will argue this, and that's okay. Everyone can believe what they choose. But what is this individual doing? Left foot forward, right foot back. Look at the tools that he has. Look at what's on my head. Why did all of the kings for thousands of years wear a crown? A crown of gold. This has a piece that weaves back and forth down the central part of the brain. Between the two hemispheres of the brain, there's a channel of energy. And this piece hemisyncs the brain. The gold around the crown activates and enhances the cranial nerves. This piece down the center connects. So for thousands of years, a lot of times this central piece was left out and we just had the crown. But the original crowns come from the ancient Egyptians and the ancient Atlanteans. And it was actually a tool to hemisync the brain and make this thing into a more divine receiver of information, a pure channel of our soul star, so that we are in a direct connection. Okay, so there's this piece. And then what is he holding? These are bars made of pure gold. And if you can zoom into it, you'd actually see on these bars are written in cartouches his name. And I actually have these bars. I can see them right over there. I could grab them and show them to you. But I've had these gold bars remade and put cartouche. You can get a cartouche with your name put into it. But why? Why make a crown? Why have these bars? Because there were practices, very specific practices of posture and breathing and visualization and toning. And there's a lot of great masters that are tapping into this. Wim Hof is one of them. Wim Hof is tapping into the breathing methods and exercises that purify the blood through the lungs and create a circulatory system that purifies the soul. It boosts the immune system. It oxygenates the body. It does so much. And he's really onto it. And this is an ancient practice as well. The ancient Tumu, the Buddhists and different cultures continued these practices. But that was only one part. There's also the holding of the breath and toning and recirculating the energy as it builds. These individuals stood on granite. Granite is one of the hardest substances on the planet that is full of crystal. And when we place pressure on the crystal, it accumulates a piezoelectric energy that starts to build and come up through the body. It grounds us, but this energy also circulates and comes up. And as we stand in specific positions, if you go look at the Temple of Luxor, this entire Temple of Luxor, the Temple of Man, and you can find entire massive volumes from architects, one architect in specific that stayed there and lived there. I have it just here. Schwaller de Lubitz, the Temple of Man. This entire temple built on the exact proportions of the human body, and in stone there's sacred mathematics and vibrations that uplift the individual. What is he doing? There are 12 specific exercises that enhance and bring energy into the 12 cranial nerves. And at each one of these temples, they were learning one specific movement and breathing and ritual to enhance the senses. This is the first one. The original name of Egypt was called Ta Meri, the land of the heart. Eventually it was called the land of Kiem or Kem, which represented the black sands. Kem means black. Alchemy, chemistry. This is where the true alchemy and chemistry, mathematics and sacred geometry, this is where it all originates. Originally Atlantis and then ancient Egypt. The first ritual that you would learn, Plato learned this, Pythagoras learned this, every initiate that stepped onto the path, going down the path of their own evolutionary process, learn this one first. This specific cranial nerve is attached and wraps around the heart. This increases the energy of the heart. And there's a sense attached to each one as well. We have 12 specific organs and 12 senses. The first organ being the heart, and the first sense being sight. And there's a process that I would love to teach every individual as it was taught to myself. But there's a process that we need to go through, a purification. This is why I teach fasting. This is why I teach lifestyle. Let food be thy medicine be thy food. But to eat when you are sick is to feed your sickness, learning to fast, to purify. Getting into alignment with the true principles of nature. And then we can start to learn these higher principles. And you can correct your vision even if you have Coke bottle thick glasses. There are processes by which you can start to increase the energy of the heart and improve your vision. Foods that you can eat, the doctrine of signatures, signum natura, carrots, carotenes, alpha and beta carotene, enhancing blood flow to your eyes. There's exercises that you can do to remove the lymph and the toxicity, because it's the congestion in the head that puts pressure on the eyes that leads to macular degeneration and glaucoma. And then there's processes by which you can build this energy and start to see. And once we have clear insight and vision 2020, then we move beyond that. We can move into insight. But there are 12 specific postures and processes to enhance our senses. First, the original 5: sight, sound, smell, taste, and touch. And then we start to move into the higher senses, the intuition, the imagination, the ability to communicate through telepathy, the transmission of ideas without having to speak. All of these practices. And so I've spent many years and invested many tens of thousands of dollars to learn these processes, because the time is coming where we need to practice these things once again. And a lot of people will cry, oh, Freemason, or oh, Illuminati, or oh, this or that. And it's like, No, original teachings. These are the teachings of the Bible. These are the teachings of the truth. These are the teachings. Where did Christ go when he was born? He went to Egypt. He went through this process. Where was Moses? Ra Moses. It's the same linguistics. Moses was raised and trained in all these processes and was one of the most formidable, amazing men. And they had access to the pyramids, and they had access to the Ark of the Covenant, and they knew what these things did, and they communed with God there. And when Moses left, there's another story. He took it with him. And from that point, Egypt really fell. So imagine if we could remake these tools. What if the symbology has everything to do with our senses, with building the energy? This is the crown of the south and the crown of the north, north and south Egypt, north and south of the body, north being the pineal, being the mother. The vulture was considered the greatest divine mother because it would tear its own flesh to feed its young. It was the greatest intuition. The Egyptians took a vulture every time they went to war because the vulture would go to the winning side and they would know who was going to win the war. And then the energy of the south, this is the kundalini. This is the sexual sacred energy. Eve was tempted by the snake. This is the energy that builds up and goes up the spine. And the two connected. This is a mathematical equation. The hemi, semi, demi, quaver, an equation of which if we can unlock, we will find immortality. Few people have ever even heard these terms. It's the 164th note. So inside of our brain, we have these 12 cranial nerves. You can just look up 12 cranial nerves on Google. This is what you will see. And it will talk about the different senses, but they don't know all of it. They only know a little bit. And science isn't talking about all of the senses. They don't talk about imagination, your ability to imagine and think and see on a level outside of the physical. They don't talk about that being a sense. There's only so far we can get. And then we need to go into metaphysics. Look at this. This is what the Egyptians depicted as Osiris sitting on his throne. Your sight is directly connected. Your eyeballs are directly connected to the head of Osiris. What do you mean, Tyler? What's Osiris? What do you mean? I can show you images of the depictions of Osiris. I hope I have it on this one. I may or may not. All you got to do is look up Osiris. This is the image of Osiris. The head of Osiris, the legs bound together, sitting on the throne. This is Osiris inside of your brain, sitting on the throne, the Godhead, our divine parentage. And there's Osiris and Isis. Trippy stuff when you start to get into this. And you start to look at the 12 cranial nerves and their relationship to the 12 signs of the zodiac, its relationship to the 12 senses and the 12 organs, and the processes by which we can go about raising our senses, becoming more in tune. The pyramid, according to the Journal of Applied Physics, has the capacity to massively concentrate electromagnetic energy into the chambers, especially the king's chamber. There was a process by which the initiate would go for 3 days. First, underneath the Sphinx from the Nile. The Nile passed in front of the Sphinx, and then they would get off the ship after they'd gone through these 13 initiatory processes at the temples. And then they would go underneath the Sphinx and stay for 3 days in the subterranean chamber connected to Alpha Draconis, overcoming fear. and then up into the Queen's chamber, which was a high resonic chamber, and build their sound body. And then up into the Sekhem chamber. Sekhem having to do with Sekhem energy, the circulation of electromagnetic energy through the body. And this is where the electromagnetic energy was concentrated into the Sekhem chamber, and the initiate would come into the presence of the Ark of the Covenant. He had gone through the process of such purification and activation that he was purified and worthy of standing in front of the Ark. And only then he could look between the Ark, and it was two cherubim angels in this massive box, the most powerful tool ever created. Whether it was created here or in some other world, it was housed in the pyramid. And there he could commune with God. And that energy and that power was the greatest power in existence, the greatest power to heal and the greatest power to destroy. Here's an image. We've all stood around here doing the exact ritual that I discussed earlier. Standing with the bars, going through the breathing and the process to build this energy inside the heart first. The 12 cranial nerves, branches of 24 hours in a day, 2 cycles of 12. And we all know through traditional Chinese medicine and the ancient Egyptian teachings that the clock is going through energy of different organs throughout different times of the day. At 1 in the morning, 1 a.m., the energy's in your liver until 3 a.m. From 3 to 5 a.m., then it's in the lungs. From 5 to 7 in the colon. From 7 to 9 in the stomach. And each one of these organs is specifically attached to one of our senses. And there's a process by which the initiates for 30 days a year would go through a process of performing these rituals of building this energy to fully regenerate their gallbladder between 11 and 1, and their small intestine and their urinary bladder and their heart. And these specific times might not be perfect. There are different teachings of the different times, but the whole point is to learn these very specific ritual practices and breathing techniques to enhance the energy and truly regenerate, fully regenerate our organs. Cleanliness is next to godliness, to raise the energy and vibration of your organs. An organ is a musical instrument. Your organs all have their own specific vibration and tune, and we can tune our organs. And when our organs are in tune, we are healthy. We are not in dis-ease. We are in harmony. And I'm fully committed to teaching this process. In fact, every day at 3:33 in the morning, I wake up 5 days a week and go through about a 2 to 3 hour process because I'm committed to this, because the truth of healing ourselves and raising our vibration and purifying ourselves and enhancing all of our senses, this is what's going to be required in this new age that we live. This is raising the Djed pillar. It's the Djedi coming back. The battle of light and dark. These represent the 12 cranial nerves, and this is the pineal and pituitary. There's so much that I need to share. The 42 laws, the 42 confessions, and the process of what's going to take us into the presence of the divine. That's all I'm going to share for today. I have a beautiful client I'm going to jump on with. We're going to go through some emotional clearing. This client's been on this 3-month program called Know Thyself, through extended fasting and purification, emotional healing, mental and emotional healing and clearing, physical detoxification and activation. There's a whole group of people every morning getting into bliss and happiness, working together in common unity to heal ourselves. And if you're interested in the potential of human evolution, I can be a guide. I'd love to. I'd love to share. I'd love to teach. I'd love to learn along the way. I've got many programs, and it's all leading towards something quite epic that's coming through. Thanks for watching. I hope I've inspired or sparked something inside of you. It's time to get into the Jedi training. Learn to use the Force. May the Force be with you. Until then.